Ambassador William Carter straightened his dark blue uniform as the massive doors to the Galactic Council chamber slid open. His heart pounded in his chest, but his face remained calm. This moment would go down in human history. The first time humanity had been invited to address the united races of the Milky Way. "Remember, sir, regardless of their response, this is a milestone for Earth," whispered Susan Miller, his chief advisor, as they walked forward. Carter nodded slightly. The chamber was enormous, with curved walls rising hundreds of feet above them. Seats arranged in tiered circles held representatives from over 200 species. Most were humanoid, but many had features that tested Carter's diplomatic training not to stare: crystalline bodies, multiple limbs, or entirely gaseous forms contained in floating devices. The hall fell quiet as Carter approached the central speaking platform. The weightlessness of the gravity-adjusted podium felt strange beneath his feet. "Esteemed representatives of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I bring greetings and gratitude for this historic invitation. Though we are newcomers to interstellar travel, we hope to learn from your collective wisdom and eventually contribute to this august body." A low murmur spread through the chamber. The Supreme Counselor Zethvar of the Xorlaxians, a tall being with iridescent blue skin and eyes that seemed to change color with his mood, rose from the highest tier. His eyes currently displayed a dismissive shade of yellow. "The Council acknowledges the human representative." Zethvar's voice boomed without any visible amplification. "Though we find it curious that such primitive apes, barely out of their atmospheric cradle, would presume themselves ready for council matters." Carter blinked, the only sign of his surprise at the openly hostile tone. "Perhaps," continued Zethvar, his mouth stretching into what might have been a smile, "the humans misunderstood our invitation. Observer status is not membership, Earth creature. It is merely our way of monitoring potentially disruptive species." Several council members made sounds that Carter's translator interpreted as laughter. He noticed some representatives remained silent, their expressions, those he could read, suggesting discomfort. "The human species has barely mastered basic warp technology," called out another council member, a reptilian being with reflective scales. "They still burn fossil fuels on their homeworld. My species had eliminated such barbaric practices before we even developed written language." More laughter spread through the chamber. Carter stood perfectly still, refusing to show anger or embarrassment. "Their primary export appears to be entertainment broadcasts filled with violence and primitive mating rituals," added a gaseous entity, generating more amusement. Zethvar raised a six-fingered hand for quiet. "Let us not be too harsh on our new observers. After all, it took them merely 50,000 years to progress from using stone tools to achieving limited space travel. Quite impressive for such short-lived creatures." The mockery continued for several more minutes. Carter endured it all without response, cataloging each insult, noting which species seemed to enjoy the humiliation and which appeared uncomfortable with the display. Finally, Zethvar spoke again. "The Council has allocated 17 minutes for the Earth representative to address any questions. Are there any from the Assembly?" Silence filled the chamber. "Very well." Zethvar's eyes shifted to a dismissive orange. "The human delegation is dismissed until tomorrow's session, where they may observe proper diplomatic proceedings between civilized species." Carter bowed slightly, keeping his expression neutral. "The human delegation thanks the Council for its candid welcome." As they left the chamber, Susan whispered, "They invited us here just to mock us. What do we do now?" "Now," Carter said quietly as the massive doors closed behind them, "we prepare our response. Get everyone together on the Earthrise. This isn't over, it's just beginning." His eyes held a determination that Susan had never seen before, and for the first time since the humiliating session began, she felt a spark of hope. The Earth diplomatic vessel Earthrise hung in space near the massive Galactic Council station. Inside the ship's conference room, Ambassador Carter sat at the head of a table surrounded by his team. Their faces showed a mix of anger, embarrassment, and confusion. "They treated us like children," said George Adams, the military liaison. His fist hit the table. "We should leave immediately. Show them we won't be disrespected." Susan Miller shook her head. "Leaving is exactly what they want. They invited us here to humiliate us, then watch us run away." Carter remained quiet, his fingers forming a steeple under his chin. The room fell silent as everyone waited for him to speak. "Neither option serves Earth's interests," he finally said. "We won't leave, and we won't sit quietly while they mock us." Lisa Martinez, the communications specialist, looked up from her datapad. "Ambassador, I've been monitoring their transmissions. There's something odd about the way the Council species interact when they think no one is listening." "Explain," Carter said. "The major species don't seem to like each other much. The Exorlaxians speak to the Antheran representatives with the same tone they used on us. And the gas beings, the Mavorians, they're constantly threatened with expulsion over resource disputes." Paul Jackson, the intelligence officer, nodded. "I've noticed similar patterns. The Council presents a united front, but underneath, they're divided. Some species have been part of the Council for thousands of years, but are still treated as lesser members." Carter stood up and walked to the viewport. The massive Council station glowed against the darkness of space. What if their unity is a facade? What if the public mockery of Earth masks deeper problems? He turned back to his team. "Paul, I need everything we have on each Council species. Their history, biology, technological development, resource needs, everything." "That's a lot of data, sir," Paul replied. "Then you better start now," Carter said with a small smile. "Lisa, continue monitoring their communications. I want to know who's fighting with whom, and why." "What are you thinking, William?" Susan asked quietly. Carter's eyes showed a new spark. "I'm thinking our greatest strength isn't our technology. It's something they can't understand or copy." "Which is?" George asked. "Our adaptability. Our history is filled with examples of humans facing impossible odds and finding ways to survive. We've never had the luxury of thousands of years of stability like these species. We've had to change, grow, and evolve rapidly just to survive on our own planet." Carter walked around the table, his energy building. "These species evolved in different environments, developed different technologies, and have different biological needs. Yet they forced themselves into a rigid hierarchy instead of embracing their diversity." "So what's our plan?" Susan asked. "We study, we learn. Then we show them what humans do best, adapt and overcome." Carter looked at each team member. "Get some rest. Tomorrow, we go back to the Council, and we start asking questions." As the team filed out, Carter called to Paul. "One more thing. Find out which species seem uncomfortable with how we were treated. They might be potential allies." Later that night, Carter sat alone in his quarters, reviewing data about the Exorlaxians. Their civilization was over 15,000 years old. They hadn't faced a serious threat or challenge in millennia. They were powerful, but also rigid and resistant to change. He smiled as a plan began to form in his mind. The Council thought humans were weak because of their youth among the stars. They were about to learn that youth came with advantages they had long forgotten. Carter sent a message to Susan. "Find me everything about Council competitions or challenges. There must be some formal way to prove a species' worth." The response came back quickly. "Already on it. You might want to see this. Apparently, there's a tradition called the Species Merit Trials. No one has called for them in over 2,000 years." Carter's smile grew wider. The Council had invited humans to observe. Instead, they were about to become the main event. Carter had not slept. His eyes burned as he studied the data on his screen. The information Paul and Lisa had gathered painted a fascinating picture of the Galactic Council. What looked like strength was actually weakness in disguise. "You should rest," Susan said, entering his office with a cup of coffee. Carter accepted the drink gratefully. Too much to learn, too little time. "What have you found?" she asked, glancing at the screens filled with alien text and diagrams. "The Council isn't a united government. It's more like a trade alliance built on necessity," Carter explained. "Each species needs something the others have. The Corlaxians need metals only found in Antheran territories. The Mavorians provide fuel technology everyone depends on." Susan sat down. "So they need each other, but don't like each other." "Exactly. And they've been stuck this way for thousands of years." Carter pulled up a new file. "Look at this. The Palaxians developed a better food production system, but were forced to limit it because it threatened Sorlaxian control over agricultural planets. They stopped progress to maintain the power balance." Susan said slowly. "Yes, and there's more." Carter showed her another screen. "I've mapped their interdependence. If one major species left the Council, the whole system would start to collapse." A knock at the door interrupted them. Lissa entered, looking excited. "Ambassador, I managed to contact a representative from the Palaxians. Her name is Nerethal. She wants to meet with you secretly." Carter raised an eyebrow. "Interesting. Arrange it." Hours later, Carter sat in a dimly lit room in a neutral section of the station. Across from him was Nerethal, a slender being with pale green skin and large expressive eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," Carter said. "Your request was unusual," Nerethal replied, her voice musical. "Few new species seek out the lesser council members." "We don't believe any species is lesser," Carter said. "Earth values different perspectives." Nerethal studied him carefully. "The treatment you received yesterday was shameful but not surprising. My people faced similar mockery when we joined 3 centuries ago. We are still considered young and unimportant, despite your scientific achievements," Carter noted. Surprise flashed in her eyes. "You know of our work. I know your agricultural systems could feed twice as many worlds with half the resources, yet the Council restricts their use." Nerethal leaned forward. "What do you want, Ambassador Carter?" "Information for now, and perhaps friendship later." He smiled. "I'm planning to invoke the species merit trials." Nerethal gasped. "That hasn't been done in millennia. The elder races won't allow it." "They can't stop it. I've studied the Council laws. Any species, even an observer, can call for the trials. It's an ancient right they've never removed from their rules." "They will make the challenges impossible," she warned. "I'm counting on it," Carter replied. "But I need to know more about how the Council truly works. The unwritten rules, the secret alliances. Will you help me?" Nerethal was quiet for a long moment. "There are others like my people, respected enough to have seats but never truly heard. The Bronteri, the Vizine Collective, the Toro, all have technologies and resources that threaten the power balance. Would they speak with me? They would be curious, at least." She hesitated. "What you're planning could change everything. The elder races won't forgive you." Carter's eyes were determined. "We're not looking for forgiveness. We're looking for respect." As he left the meeting, Carter contacted Susan. "Set up a secure channel to Earth. I need to speak with the Science Council immediately." "Did you learn something important?" she asked. "Yes," Carter said. "I learned that humans aren't the only ones tired of being treated as inferior. We're going to need Earth's best minds, and we'll need them quickly." The plan forming in his mind was bold, perhaps even dangerous. But as the saying went on Earth, sometimes the best defense was a good offense. The Galactic Council thought humans were weak. Soon, they would discover just how wrong they were. The next day, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the usual activities. Various representatives discussed trade agreements and border disputes. Supreme Councilor Zethvard looked bored as he oversaw the proceedings from his elevated position. The massive doors opened, and Ambassador Carter entered with Susan and Paul. Unlike yesterday, Carter walked with confident strides directly to the speaking platform. Several council members noticed his arrival but paid little attention. "The chair recognizes the human observer," Zethvar said with barely hidden disdain. Though we hadn't scheduled time for Earth matters today. Carter smiled. I appreciate the Council's flexibility. I'll be brief. The chamber quieted as everyone expected the humans to announce their withdrawal. Even Zethvar leaned forward slightly. Yesterday, this council made its opinion of humanity quite clear. Carter began. We were called primitive, young, and unworthy. Many here laughed at the very idea of humans participating in galactic affairs. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. After careful consideration, Earth has decided to respond. Carter paused, not by leaving, but by invoking the right of species merit trials. The chamber erupted. Many representatives shouted in their native languages, while others turned to advisors for explanation. Zethvar's skin darkened to a deep purple of shock. Order, he finally commanded, and the room fell silent. The human invokes an ancient tradition he clearly doesn't understand. The species merit trials haven't been called in over 2,000 years. Yet they remain valid under Council law, Carter replied calmly. Section 47, Article 9 states that any species, even those with observer status, may call for trials to demonstrate their value to the galactic community. The reptilian counselor who had mocked humans previously hissed, "This is outrageous. The trials were designed for species with something to prove." Precisely, Carter said with a smile. Humanity has much to prove, according to yesterday's reception. Zethvar's eyes narrowed. You realize the trials involve multiple challenges. Technological demonstrations, scientific knowledge, resource management, diplomatic resolutions, areas where established species have millennia of advantage. We understand the parameters. Carter nodded. Humanity accepts all standard challenges. A low murmur ran through the chamber again. Zethvar consulted with several advisors before addressing Carter again. Very well. As Supreme Counselor, I have no choice but to acknowledge your right to invoke the trials. His mouth twisted into something like a smile. The challenges will begin in 7 standard days. That should give your primitive species time to prepare, whatever display you think might impress us. Carter bowed slightly. We appreciate the Council's adherence to its own laws. Earth looks forward to the opportunity. As he turned to leave, a small crystalline being moved to block his path. The translator identified it as a representative of the Vizine Collective, one of the groups Narathal had mentioned. Human. The being chimed in a musical voice that the translator rendered as feminine. The Vizine admire courage, even when misplaced. We request permission to send observers to your vessel for cultural exchange during your preparation period. Before Carter could respond, representatives from the Bronteri and 3 other species made similar requests. Zethvar's skin flickered with angry blue patterns. The human delegation has observer status only. They are not authorized for multiple diplomatic exchanges. Yet nothing in Council law prohibits cultural visits between willing parties, the Vizine representative countered, unless the Supreme Counselor wishes to create new restrictions specifically targeting humans. The Council chamber fell silent, waiting for Zethvar's response. Creating such obvious restrictions would reveal his bias. The Council does not concern itself with irrelevant cultural exchanges, he finally said. Do as you wish, but do not interfere with Council proceedings. As Carter left the chamber, Susan whispered, That went exactly as you predicted. Phase 1 complete, Carter replied quietly. The real work begins now. Behind them, the Council erupted into arguments, with various factions already taking sides on the unprecedented development. For the first time in centuries, the established order had been challenged, not through war or technology, but through their own ancient laws. The Earthrise hummed with activity. Every available space had been converted into meeting rooms and workshops. Representatives from 5 different species moved through the corridors, speaking with human specialists in animated conversations. In the main engineering bay, Kelly Rodriguez worked side by side with 2 Pelaxians. Their 6-fingered hands moved with incredible precision as they examined a human engine component. "Your approach is unusual," said the older Palaxian, Tevenar. "You use mechanical systems where we would use crystalline technology." Kelly smiled. "That's exactly why I wanted to show you. Our different methods might work better together than separately." Tevenar's large eyes blinked slowly. The Council species would never consider such collaboration. They believe their ways are already perfect. "Humans don't believe in perfect," Kelly replied, adjusting a power coupling. "We believe in better." In another section of the ship, Daniel Watson stood in a circle with 3 Antheran warriors. The reptilian beings towered over him, their scaled bodies covered in traditional armor. "Your fighting styles developed for different gravity," Daniel explained. "But the principles can be adapted." The lead Antheran, Cresta, performed a lightning-fast move that Daniel barely dodged. "You have quick reflexes for a soft skin," Cresta said with what might have been respect. "And you have incredible strength," Daniel replied. "Imagine combining our speed with your power." In the diplomatic conference room, Carter met with Nerathal and representatives from the Vizine Collective, the Brontari, and the Toro. Maps and data filled the screens around them. "The challenges will be announced tomorrow," said Merrill, the crystalline Vizine. "The Council will structure them to guarantee human failure." "Let them try," Carter said. "Our strategy isn't to win every challenge." "Then what is your strategy?" asked the Brontari representative, a broad-shouldered being with 4 arms. Carter looked at each alien face. "To demonstrate something the Council has forgotten, that true advancement comes from cooperation, not competition, from diversity, not uniformity." "A noble sentiment," Merrill chimed. "But sentiment doesn't change millennia of Council dominance." "Actions change things," Carter replied. "And we're already taking action. Look at what's happening on this ship right now." Susan entered the room, bringing fresh data. "Ambassador, we just received word that the Exorlaxians have protested our meetings to the full Council." "And?" Carter asked. 17 species voted against their motion to restrict our interactions. The most opposition the leadership has faced in centuries, according to our Palaxian friends. The room fell silent as the significance sank in. "They fear what they cannot control," Nerathal said quietly. Carter stood and walked to the viewport. The massive Council station loomed outside. For too long, the elder races have maintained their power by keeping other species separate and dependent. But what happens when those species start working together? The balance shifts. The Toro representative rumbled, speaking for the first time. His massive form seemed too large for his chair. "But shifting balances can lead to chaos. Or to a new, better balance," Carter countered. "One based on mutual respect rather than dominance and submission." A message alert sounded. Paul Jackson's voice came over the comm system. "Ambassador, we've detected unusual energy signatures from the Council station. They appear to be scanning our ship intensively." "Let them look," Carter said calmly. "We have nothing to hide." Later that evening, alone with Susan, Carter reviewed their progress. "Are we ready?" she asked. "As ready as we can be," he replied. "The technical challenges will be difficult, but the real test will be the diplomatic scenarios." Susan looked worried. "The Council species have been playing galactic politics for thousands of years." Carter smiled. "Yes, but they've been playing the same game, with the same rules, against the same opponents. Humans excel at changing the game. And if they refuse to let the game change, then we'll show them something else humans are good at," Carter said, his eyes determined. Surviving against impossible odds. The day of the challenges arrived. A special arena had been prepared on the Council station, with viewing areas for representatives from all member species. The event was being broadcast across thousands of worlds. Carter and his team entered to a mix of curious stares and dismissive glances. Supreme Counselor Zethvar stood on a raised platform, his blue skin shimmering with official markings. "The species merit trials will now begin," he announced. As is tradition, the challenging species, In this case, humans will face tests in 5 categories: technology, science, resource management, cultural understanding, and diplomatic resolution. He gestured to a massive display showing the challenge details. The first challenge is technological. Each species will demonstrate their most advanced propulsion system. Performance will be measured by efficiency, speed, and innovation. Susan whispered to Carter, "They've chosen a category where we're centuries behind." "As expected," he replied calmly. The elder races went first. The Exorlaxians demonstrated a drive system that bent space in ways humans had only theorized about. The Mavorians showed propulsion technology that seemed to ignore normal physics. When Earth's turn came, Kelly Rodriguez presented their standard fusion drive with recent modifications. The scores appeared instantly. Earth ranked last, with ratings so low that several council members laughed openly. Zethvar's eyes showed smug yellow satisfaction. "Let us proceed to the science challenge. Each species will analyze and provide solutions for a damaged ecosystem on an outer rim planet." This time, Olivia Bennett led the human team. They studied the complex problem, consulted briefly, then offered their solution. To everyone's surprise, Earth scored in the middle range, not winning, but far from last place. "Unexpected," murmured Zethvar. "But the resource management challenge will surely demonstrate the difference between established civilizations and newcomers." Carter stepped forward himself for this challenge. The test involved allocating limited supplies among multiple planets with different needs during a crisis scenario. Carter's approach differed completely from the other species. While they created complex distribution formulas, he proposed a rotating system where planets helped each other based on changing needs. When the scores appeared, Earth ranked third, ahead of several elder races. The council chamber grew tense. This was not proceeding as expected. "The cultural understanding challenge will now begin," announced Zethvar, his skin darkening slightly. "Species will demonstrate their ability to interpret and respect the customs of others." Paul Jackson represented Earth for this challenge. Using the knowledge they had gained from their recent exchanges, the human team showed surprising insight into multiple species' cultural practices. Earth ranked second, just behind the visiting. Angry whispers filled the chamber. Zethvar conferred urgently with other elder race representatives. "We proceed to the final challenge," he finally stated. "Diplomatic resolution." The scenario involves a territorial dispute between the Antheran and Brontari peoples that has resisted solution for 3 centuries. Carter smiled slightly. This was the challenge he had anticipated. As the challenging species, humans will present their solution first, Zethvar declared, clearly hoping to throw Carter off balance. Carter stepped to the center of the arena. "We've studied this dispute carefully. Both species claim the Valoran asteroid belt based on historical precedent. Both have valid claims." He paused, looking at both delegations. Earth proposes neither side receives exclusive control. Instead, we suggest a joint development authority with rotating leadership and shared benefits. He then outlined a detailed plan that incorporated elements from Earth's own history of resolving territorial conflicts. This approach honors both claims while providing greater benefits than either side would receive alone. The chamber fell silent. The Antheran and Brontari representatives looked at each other, then at their advisors. Finally, the lead Antheran spoke. "This solution has merit. We would consider it." The Brontari leader nodded slowly. "As would we." The scoring system flashed, placing Earth first in the diplomatic challenge. The overall rankings appeared. Earth had placed fourth among 22 participating species. Zethvar's skin turned a dark purple. This outcome was impossible, unthinkable. Yet the evidence was clear for all to see. "The trials have concluded," he announced stiffly. "The results are noted." Carter bowed slightly, his face neutral despite the victory. "Earth thanks the Council for this opportunity. We have learned much." As his team left the arena, applause started from the section where the Palaxians and other younger species sat. It spread gradually until representatives from nearly half the council were showing their approval. Something had shifted in the galactic balance of power. The celebration aboard the Earthrise was interrupted when Olivia Bennett rushed into the room, her face pale with worry. "Ambassador, I need to speak with you immediately," she said, her voice urgent. Carter followed her to the science lab where multiple screens displayed data and images. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "During the challenges, I gained access to some of the Council's scientific databases," Olivia explained. "I found this data buried under security locks." She pointed to an image showing a massive swirling mass in space. "This is a spatial anomaly moving through this sector of the galaxy. According to these readings, it will reach populated council worlds within 6 months." Carter studied the readings. "What kind of anomaly?" "It's like nothing in our records," Olivia said. "It distorts space-time and emits radiation that would be deadly to most species. The data suggests it could destroy dozens of worlds in its path." "And the Council knows about this?" "Yes," Olivia nodded grimly. "They've known for at least 2 years, but they've kept it secret from most of their own populations." Carter's mind raced. Why would they hide something this important? Before Olivia could answer, an alert sounded. "Ambassador," Paul's voice came over the comm system. "Supreme Counselor Zethvar is requesting a private meeting with you. He's outside our ship." Carter and Susan met Zethvar in a small conference room. The Horlaxian leader seemed different, the usual arrogance replaced by a tightly controlled tension. "Your performance in the trials was unexpected," Zethvar began. "Thank you," Carter replied simply. "That was not a compliment." Zethvar's eyes flashed orange. "You have disrupted established protocols and encouraged divisions within the Council." Carter met his gaze steadily. "Is that why you're here? To scold us for doing well?" "I am here," Zethvar said slowly, "because your science officer has been accessing restricted databases." Susan tensed, but Carter remained calm. "We were given access to Council databases as part of the trials." "Not those databases." Zethvar's voice dropped. "You know what she found." "The spatial anomaly," Carter nodded. "The one you've kept secret from most of your own people." For a long moment, Zethvar was silent. Then his color shifted to a deeper blue. "This is why we invited your species to observe, then tried to discourage your participation. We have more important matters to address than integrating new species." "You could have simply told us," Susan said, "and risk causing panic across multiple worlds." Zethvar shook his head. "The elder races have been working on solutions. We needed to maintain stability while we prepare." Carter leaned forward. "Prepare for what?" "Evacuation." Zethvar's hesitation told them everything. "You can't evacuate everyone," Carter realized. "You're deciding which worlds to save." "Difficult choices must be made," Zethvar said flatly. "The elder races have the most advanced technology, the most valuable knowledge. Preserving our civilizations must take priority." "So you plan to abandon the younger species?" Susan's voice was cold. "Including those who've been part of your council for centuries." "Resources are limited," Zethvar replied. "The anomaly cannot be stopped. We must preserve what is most valuable." "And who decides what is most valuable?" Carter asked quietly. Zethvar didn't answer. Carter stood up. "Thank you for your honesty, Supreme Counselor. Earth will consider this information carefully." After Zethvar left, Susan turned to Carter. "What are we going to do? We can't evacuate all those worlds either." "No," Carter agreed. "But maybe we don't have to." He activated the ship's comm system. "Olivia, gather every bit of data on that anomaly. Then contact our new friends among the Council species. Tell them we need their scientists to join us immediately." "What are you thinking?" Susan asked. "The elder races have decided the anomaly can't be stopped," Carter said. "But they've been working alone, keeping secrets. Let's see what happens when we work together." His eyes showed determination and hope. "After all, isn't that what we just proved in the trials? that cooperation beats isolation, that diversity of thought finds solutions where uniformity fails. Susan nodded slowly. They won't like it. No, Carter agreed. But they'll need it. And that might be humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy yet. 3 days later, the full Galactic Council gathered for an emergency session. The chamber was filled with tension as representatives from all species waited anxiously. Rumors had spread rapidly after the trials. When Carter entered, he was accompanied not just by his human team, but by scientists and leaders from 17 different council species. They walked together in a unified group that immediately caused whispers throughout the chamber. Zethvar's skin flickered with blue patterns of stress as he called the session to order. The human representative has requested this emergency meeting. The council recognizes Ambassador Carter. Carter stepped to the center of the chamber. The usual speaking platform had been replaced with a larger area filled with holographic projectors. Esteemed council members, he began, his voice clear and strong. I stand before you today with knowledge that affects us all. A spatial anomaly approaches council space, one capable of destroying dozens of inhabited worlds. The chamber erupted as many representatives reacted with shock or anger. Those from elder races looked accusingly at their leaders. Order, Zethvar commanded. Once the noise subsided, he glared at Carter. The human speaks of classified matters beyond his authority. With respect, Supreme Counselor, Carter replied, when the lives of billions hang in the balance, authority becomes less important than action. He activated the holographic projectors. A detailed image of the anomaly appeared, along with charts and data. For the past 3 days, scientists from 17 species have worked together to analyze this threat. Unlike the elder races, who worked in isolation, we combined our knowledge and perspectives. Carter nodded to Olivia, who stepped forward alongside a Vizine scientist and a Palaxian engineer. We've discovered something the elder races missed, Olivia explained. The anomaly isn't a natural phenomenon. It's an echo of an ancient weapon used in a war long forgotten, and it can be neutralized. The Vizine scientist chimed in. Our crystalline technology can detect patterns invisible to others. The anomaly pulses with a specific frequency, and our agricultural systems, added the Palaxian, can be modified to generate counter-frequencies that will disrupt those pulses. Carter stepped forward again. But neither solution alone is sufficient. We need Sorlaxian energy technology, Mavorian field generators, Antheren mining capabilities, and contributions from at least 12 other species. Each piece is essential. He looked directly at Zethvar. No single species, not even the eldest and most advanced, can solve this alone. Only by working together can we save all our worlds, not just the chosen few. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. You have a plan, Zethvar stated flatly. We have the beginning of one, Carter corrected. What we need now is full cooperation from all council species. No more secrets, no more hierarchies. Just beings working together for survival. A representative from one of the elder races stood. This is unprecedented. We cannot simply discard established protocols. Protocols that would sacrifice my world and many others. Interrupted Nerathal of the Palaxians. I support the human plan. One by one, representatives from younger species stood in agreement. Soon, even some elder races joined them. Zethvar looked around the chamber, seeing the shift in power happening before his eyes. His skin cycled through several colors before settling on a deep, thoughtful blue. It seems, he said slowly, that we must adapt or perish. The council will hear this plan in full. Hours later, as the meeting concluded with the formation of a multi-species task force, Carter stood alone with Zethvar in a quiet corner of the chamber. Why? The Exorlaxian asked simply. After our treatment of you, why offer to save us all? Carter smiled slightly. Because that's what humans do. We don't thrive on dominance or control. We thrive on connection, on building bridges where others see only chasms. And forgiveness? Zephyr asked. That too, Carter nodded. Though we don't forget, the galaxy will be different after this crisis passes. Yes, Zephyr agreed, looking at the diverse groups of beings now working together. It already is. As Carter walked away, he reflected that the greatest victory wasn't proving humanity's worth to the galaxy. It was showing the galaxy its own worth, the strength that comes not from age or power, but from unity and diversity. The insult that had started their journey had led to the beginning of a new galactic order, with humanity not at its feet, but at its heart.